poor girl looking for a job walked into the wrong place and was hired to be the wife of a millionaire CEO. Before we start the story, let us know in the comments, which city are you watching from? Enjoy the story, everyone. Chloe wasn't exactly having her best day. Her heel was bent, her hair kept sticking to her forehead because of the heat, and the paper resume she was holding had a noticeable coffee stain. But she was determined. Today was the day. The long-awaited interview at Parker Print, a small neighborhood copy shop promising a steady salary, bus fare, and free coffee. After hours of walking, she finally arrived at the address. She stopped in front of the building, huge, all glass, with a shiny sign at the top, Parker Corp. Wow, this copy shop sure got fancy. Must have spent a fortune on toner, she muttered as she walked in. The receptionist looked at her without smiling. Name? Chloe Martins. I'm here for the interview. She smiled like it was more important than it really was. Without a word, the receptionist handed her a badge and pointed toward the elevator. Room 7C. Chloe rode up with a group of people in suits, trying to copy their posture, pretending not to notice how noisy her blazer was with every step. When she arrived, an assistant led her to a glass meeting room. You can wait here. Mr. Parker will see you. Mr. Parker? Now that's what I call a serious copy shop. A few minutes later, the door opened, and Chloe saw the most intimidating man she had ever met. Tall, sharply dressed, serious expression. Definitely the Parker from the sign. He sat down across from her, still looking at his tablet. Name? Chloe Martins. Copy shop? He asked, raising an eyebrow at her resume. Yes, I'm an expert in A4 paper, jammed staplers, and rebellious toner. It's a natural gift. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Chloe, you're in the wrong building. Parker Print is a small copy place downstairs, 2 doors past the pharmacy. This is Parker Corp., a global tech company. The interview here is for a secretary. Secretary? She straightened up. Well, look, I'm great at that too. I answer phones like a pro. I've memorized all the classic lines. Good morning, how can I help you? And I've got a few variations with enthusiasm. He looked at her, clearly trying to figure out if she was serious. I organize files, folders, even broken hearts. And I can use spreadsheets. Well, sort of. I've opened one before. That counts, right? Nathan blinked slowly. You're really trying to convince a stranger to hire you for a position you didn't even know existed 3 minutes ago? That's what I call professional flexibility. I adapt. You want me to make coffee? I'll do it. Remind you of meetings? I'm your girl. Need me to entertain your grandma during a business dinner? I'll dance. In a long dress. Nathan pressed his lips together, trying not to laugh. You dance? Terribly, but with confidence. And sometimes that's what today's candidates are missing. Boldness. You talk a lot, and I listen well too. See? Multi-purpose, like a human Swiss Army knife. He finally laughed. You're a complete disaster. I agree, but I'm a functional disaster. If I fall, I get up. If I mess up, I improvise. If I get lost, I ask Google Maps. Nathan rested his chin on his hand and studied her. You know the last person who made me laugh in an interview? Your mom? Never. No one. Until now. Chloe blinked. Well, that's a good sign, right? Maybe. Tell me something. Why would I hire someone who walked into the wrong interview, mistook a copy shop for a global company, and just declared war on common sense? She took a deep breath and, for the first time, spoke seriously. Because I need this. Because I work hard, and if you give me a chance, I promise you won't regret it. Or at least, you'll laugh a lot. Nathan stayed silent for a few seconds. Then he stood up. Start tomorrow, 8 a.m. What? Personal secretary. Office next to mine. There'll be lots of paper and coffee, so you're already in the right mood. But please, try not to embarrass me the first week. Chloe blinked, speechless. Are you serious? Very. And don't call me Mr. It's Nathan. Just Nathan. He walked out. Chloe stood there, staring at the door. For a moment, she thought this was a prank show. But no, it was real. She got in the elevator still in shock, holding her badge like it was a trophy. I walked into the wrong building and got a job. Either I'm really lucky or he's really crazy. Maybe both. At the top of the building, watching through the glass, Nathan Parker saw her leave. Chloe showed up at 7:56 a.m. That was a miracle on its own. Getting up early was already hard. Getting up early and excited? That deserved a star on the Walk of Fame. She walked into Parker Corp with the same badge from the day before hanging around her neck and a smile that tried to hide how nervous she was. She was wearing her best formal outfit, also known as the least wrinkled blouse and the pants she could zip up without holding her breath. As she approached the front desk, the same receptionist from the day before gave her the same, "Are you serious?" look. Chloe just waved cheerfully. "Good morning. First day on the job, you can smile. I promise not to put toner in the wrong place. I mean, there's no toner here anyway, right?" She laughed to herself. The receptionist didn't. She headed up to the 17th floor like she'd been working there for years. The truth was, she was counting her steps just to keep from passing out from anxiety. When she got off the elevator, she was met by a woman who looked perfect. Clipboard in hand, high heels clicking down the hallway like an angry metronome. "You must be Chloe?" "That's me, the new secretary, officially hired by mistake, but ready to make it work." The woman raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "I'm Amanda, executive assistant. I'll show you your desk and the basics to keep you from getting fired on your first day." "Love the motivational tone. Very reassuring," Chloe said, already tripping over her own feet. Amanda didn't laugh. Maybe she had the same software as the receptionist. Chloe was led to a wide desk with a computer, phone, notepad, and a white mug that said, "Keep calm and schedule it." "This'll be your desk. Your job is to schedule, answer, organize, and keep Mr. Parker on time, which I should warn you is like trying to get a lion to do yoga." "Nice. I like a challenge. I once got a cat to take a bath. Needed 4 stitches, but he smelled great." Amanda gave a half smile. "If you can keep him out of chaos for a week, you win a prize." "What kind of prize?" "The right to keep your job." Chloe pretended to make a mental note, nodding seriously. For the next 2 hours, she tried her best to figure out the company's system. She clicked on the wrong things, restarted her computer by accident, called HR thinking it was housekeeping, and somehow scheduled a meeting with someone who didn't even exist in the system. "Star counselor is not an executive, Chloe," Amanda said, looking at the screen. "Did you type that?" "I thought it was a futuristic title. You never know, we might be investing in spaceships." The rest of the day went by with small, perfectly timed disasters. She dropped an entire box of paper clips on the carpet, mistook an executive for a coffee delivery guy, and stuck a post-it note on her forehead that said, "Important," while talking on the phone, a habit she picked up back when she used to deliver lunch boxes. Around 11, Nathan came out of his office with a curious look. "Are you sticking reminders to yourself?" Visual strategy. My brain sometimes ignores the screen, but it never ignores my own forehead. It's science. He leaned on the edge of her desk. "Have you caused any fires yet?" "Not yet. But the printer gave me a weird look 10 minutes ago. I'm watching it." Nathan chuckled quietly. "And the calls?" "Took 2. One was your grandma. She wants to know if you're eating well. The other was a woman who just said Nathan and hung up. I think it was an ex. Or maybe a future ex." "And what did you say?" "I told her Nathan was busy trying to look more friendly than he really is." Sounded accurate. Was I convincing? "Very?" Nathan walked back into his office, shaking his head. Amanda showed up right after. "You really said that on an anonymous call?" "I did. Thought it was bold. This is a corporation. You need to be more contained." "I can be contained. I just need a rubber band." At lunchtime, Chloe went down to the company cafeteria. The line was full of people in suits, serious looks on their faces, glued to their phones. She grabbed a plate and said to the server, "Hi there. I'll take the stress with tense sauce and a side of hopeless intern, please." The woman at the counter laughed for the first time that day. Chloe got her lunch and sat alone. Not by choice, but because everyone else looked too busy to even chew. That's when she heard a voice next to her. "Did you really say he looked like a Nathan trying to be friendly?" It was a guy with a tech vibe and a badge that said Eduardo. He sat next to her with an amused smile. "I did, and I haven't been fired, which honestly feels like a win." "I heard some chatter. You're the new secretary for Mr. Parker? The one hired by mistake and kept out of mercy?" "Yep, that's me. I like you already." "Everyone should. I'm a charming ball of chaos." By the end of the afternoon, Chloe managed to schedule all of the next day's meetings and only got 2 names mixed up. Amanda walked past her desk with a neutral expression. "You survived your first day. I'm surprised." "So am I. I thought someone would have packed me into a cardboard box before 3 o'clock. Mr. Parker wants to see you." Chloe's eyes widened. He wants to see me. Like, now? Like yesterday. Come on. She knocked on Nathan's door. He was sitting at his desk, reviewing spreadsheets. Chloe, he said without looking up. Tell me something. What exactly do you think a secretary is supposed to do? Easy. Handle what no one else wants to deal with. Remember what everyone else forgets, and smile while the world's on fire. I'm also good at holding elevator doors and pretending I understand technical terms. He looked up and folded his arms. You had a curious day. Define curious. Funny. Chaotic. Inefficient, but surprisingly functional. If that's a compliment, I'll take it. If it's a critique, I'll deny it till the end. Nathan gave a slight smile. You know what's even stranger? You also thought Parker Corp was a copy shop? No, it's that, despite everything, you did more than the last 3 people we hired for this job. Was that a compliment? Because my self-esteem just skyrocketed. It was, but don't get used to it. Go home, get some rest, and try not to show up tomorrow in a t-shirt that says Chaos Intern. Noted, but honestly, that's a great idea. On her way out, Chloe pressed the elevator button with pride. One day down, a boss who was mysteriously intrigued. A huge company that now had a secretary who danced Faro badly and remembered birthdays with ease. On the way home, she called her mom. Mom, you're not going to believe it. I started today and I haven't been fired yet. Is that good? That's a miracle, Mom. A miracle with air conditioning. Later, Nathan was still staring at the desk where Chloe had worked all day. He saw the colorful sticky notes on the monitor. One of them read, "Don't forget to remember," he smiled. That girl's nuts. Nathan Parker was in his office, blinds half closed, reviewing reports on his tablet and nursing a mild headache. He just finished his second cup of coffee when his phone buzzed with the name that always made his shoulders tense. Grandma Dolores. He answered cautiously. Hi, Grandma. Don't give me that tired hi. It's noon, and I doubt you've eaten anything decent. Coffee doesn't feed a grown man, Nathan. And it doesn't hide dark circles either. Nathan sighed and leaned back in his chair. I'm fine, really. Just a busy day at the office. My time's what's running out, so I'll be direct. Since you can't seem to find someone on your own, I'll take care of it. I'm setting up some dates with nice girls. And this time you're going. No excuses, no disappearing at the last minute. Got it? Nathan felt a chill down his spine. Dolores Parker wasn't known for empty threats. Grandma, you don't have to. Yes, I do. It's about time you start a family. Most of my friends already have great-grandchildren. And what do I have? A grandson buried in spreadsheets who thinks holidays are a myth. Nathan rubbed his face. I know you worry, but it's not that simple. It is. You're the one who makes it complicated. I'm making calls today. One of them is my friend's daughter from church. She's a lawyer, plays piano and cooks. The full package. Mark your calendar, Friday at 7. And I'm thinking of 2 more names for next week. Grandma? No, Grandma. This is an ultimatum. You'll go on those dates, and if you don't, I'll come to that office and drag you out by the collar myself. The call ended without another word. Nathan stared at the black screen of his phone for a few seconds in total silence. That's when he heard someone humming outside the office. It sounded like a jingle from a cereal commercial. He got up and peeked through the blinds. Chloe was sitting at her desk on the phone with someone from the events team. Yes, of course. Mr. Parker will be available at 3. No, he doesn't bite. He just growls a little before lunch, but that's normal. She laughed. Yes, thank you. Talk soon. Nathan watched her for a few more seconds, and that's when the idea hit him. It wasn't just a practical solution. It was bold. And he hated to admit it, but it made sense. A few minutes later, Chloe was called into Nathan's office. You called for me? She said, standing in front of his desk, her name badge slightly crooked, with a smile that always seemed spontaneous. Close the door and have a seat, please. I need to talk to you about something, a little out of the ordinary. If it's about the email I sent that said, "Good morning" with 3 eyes, I can explain. I was just excited. No, that didn't bother me. Oh, then I'm nervous for nothing. Nathan laced his fingers together on the desk. My grandma wants me to get married, and now she's set on setting me up with women I've never even met. She already scheduled one for this Friday. And you brought me here to stop that from happening? Because if that's the case, I might need a more detailed plan. Actually, I was thinking of something more straightforward. I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend. Chloe's eyes widened. You want me to pretend we're dating? Just for a while. If my grandma thinks I'm in a serious relationship, she'll stop arranging these surprise dates. And why did you think I'd be the best person for this role? Because you're convincing and unexpected. No one would guess I'd fake a relationship with my brand new assistant. It'll look real. Chloe crossed her arms and looked at him. So you saw me humming in the hallway and thought, yeah, she's perfect to fool a sweet old lady? Something like that. And what's in it for me? A bonus, flexible hours, and job security while the deal lasts. She leaned back in her chair, thinking, this is a little crazy, but I might be just crazy enough to consider it. So tell me, how's this gonna work? Dinners, smiling in pictures at events, lovey-dovey glances in the elevator? Just enough to convince my grandma. No need to overdo it? So no dramatic kisses in front of the living room piano? Only if my grandma asks, and even then, I hope not. Chloe was quiet for a few seconds. Then she gave a sideways smile. All right, I'm in, but I have a few conditions. Conditions? Yes. 1. No meetups before 9 in the morning. 2. If someone asks if I'm in love, I want to say you won me over with quarterly reports. And 3. In public, you'll smile, at least with your eyes. Nathan took a deep breath and held out his hand. Deal. She shook it firmly. We're gonna fool a sweet old lady together. How lovely. On Friday, Chloe got ready carefully. Nothing over the top. A simple dark blue dress, a loose bun, and a touch of soft lipstick. When she came downstairs, she saw Nathan waiting with the car out front. You look appropriate, he said, avoiding a compliment as usual. And you look exactly like always. CEO face, CEO outfit, and that expression like you've already planned dinner, breakfast, and lunch for Sunday in 2045. Shall we? Sure, I'm excited for my first dinner as the hired girlfriend. Can I say you snore? I don't snore. Denial is the first symptom. The Parker family home was in an upscale neighborhood, surrounded by neat trees and carefully designed gardens. Chloe felt like she'd stepped into a home design magazine. Dolores greeted them with a warm smile and a hug that was firmer than Chloe expected from someone over 80. Finally, a real young lady next to my grandson. I was starting to think he was made of ice. He's more like dry ice. Seems cold, but get too close and you're lost in a fog of confusion, Chloe said with a smile. Dolores laughed loudly. During dinner, Chloe was perfect. Polite, fun, honest. She talked about her childhood, her goals, even pretended to like economics books just to impress. Dolores seemed more and more charmed. You two make a lovely couple. Have you thought about making it official? She asked. Nathan choked on his wine. Chloe calmly smiled. We prefer to take things slow. But trust me, he's practically a husband already. Yesterday he asked if we had milk in the fridge, a clear sign of commitment. Dolores laughed again, patting Nathan's shoulder. Finally, someone who balances out your seriousness with a sense of humor. I like her. On the way back, the car was comfortably quiet. Your grandma is amazing and dangerous. She likes me a lot. I noticed. Congratulations, you're the first woman in 5 years to get a direct compliment from her. I feel like I won an invisible trophy. But Nathan? Yes? If we're keeping up this act, we need to get our story straight. How we met, our first kiss, that kind of thing. All right, we'll build a timeline. And if someone asks if we've slept together, you can say yes. Just skip the details. Chloe laughed. Details are my specialty. The next morning, Nathan walked into his office and found an envelope on his desk. Inside was a handwritten list titled Our Story, Official Version. We met at the office coffee shop. You offered me sugar. Our first conversation was about the weather. So romantic. You asked me to lunch a week later. I said yes, because you looked lonely and like you lived on protein bars. Our first kiss was in the elevator. I tripped. You caught me. Classic. We don't have nicknames for each other yet, but if anyone asks, you call me Chloe and I'll call you Mr. Grumpy. Nathan smiled without realizing it. He picked up a pen and wrote at the bottom. And if they ask how I feel about you, I'll say, she makes me laugh. And for me, that means a lot. Chloe never saw the note, but if she had, she would have been surprised by how much honesty was hiding behind all that formality. Nathan was still holding the list when he heard 3 quick knocks at his office door. Excuse me. Chloe's voice came in before he could answer. She stepped in holding 2 mugs. I brought coffee. One with sugar, one without. I can't remember which one you prefer, so pick fast. If it's the wrong one, pretend it's fine and pretend you forgive me. Nathan quietly lowered the piece of paper and picked the mug on the right. No sugar. You got it right. Great. That counts as bonus points in our imaginary relationship. She smiled, and just before she walked out, Nathan said, "Chloe, I think it's time we take the next step." She froze. "You mean the next step in our act, right? Because if it's in real life, I'm gonna need to sit down." "In the act, but something important. My grandmother could show up any time now, and, well, she'll expect us to be living together as a couple." "Living together, as in moving in together?" Nathan nodded, setting his mug down on the desk. "That's right. You'll need to move into my apartment, just for now." "Are you serious?" "Completely. Just until things settle down, a week or two, maybe 3. Take the time you need to get things organized. I'll help with the move." Chloe paused, thinking it through. "So, you want me to live in the same place as you, pretend to be your girlfriend, smile through dinners, maybe attend family lunches, and do all that while keeping a safe distance between my side of the house and yours. That's a good summary." "Perfect. I'm in." Nathan raised his eyebrows. "That easy? You're offering me a place to live, coffee, and a fake relationship with negotiable terms. On my list of craziest decisions, this doesn't even make the top 5. That same night, Chloe showed up at Nathan's building, dragging a purple suitcase with a faded sticker that said, "Do not touch, organized mess." She had a backpack on her shoulders and a pillow in her hands. "Ready for my new, temporary life as a pretend wife," she said, out of breath. Nathan held the door open for her. "Did you bring the whole house?" "Just the essentials. Clothes, shoes, slippers, my favorite pillow, and a few emotional necessities, like this cookie jar my aunt gave me in 2014. Nathan's apartment was exactly how she imagined it. Quiet, clean, stylish, and way too organized. Everything looked like it had been measured with a ruler. Chloe stopped in the middle of the living room and slowly turned in a circle, taking it all in. "Wow, this place looks like a catalog. Where are the tangled charger cords, forgotten mugs, and shoes kicked off by the door?" "They don't exist. Everything has its place." "Well, you should take a picture now. Things are going to change." Nathan led her to one of the guest rooms. "This will be your room. You can set it up however you like. Just avoid plants that need attention," he paused. "Or pets. So the hamster I was planning to bring will have to wait." She dropped the suitcase on the floor and started unpacking with surprising speed. In 10 minutes, she had already hung a colorful scarf at the head of the bed, fluffed her personal pillow, and scattered 2 books on the side table. "There, my personal touch of chaos." Nathan appeared at the door. "Shall we talk about rules?" "Sure. I'm ready. We can even make a bulletin board with heart-shaped magnets." They sat down at the dining table. Chloe grabbed a notebook and a pen. "Rule number 1, no entering my room without knocking, unless it's a fire, a hurricane, or a really big insect." "Agreed." "Rule number 2, don't touch my personal computer." "Fair." "Rule number 3, each person washes their own dishes, even water glasses. They technically don't get dirty, but morally, they do." Nathan typed something into his phone. "Rule number 4, no speakerphone calls in the shared spaces." "Perfect." "And rule number 5, any argument must be paused for chocolate or a light TV show." They looked at each other, almost smiling. "We're being very reasonable," said Chloe. "It's still the first day," Nathan replied. Later that evening, after a simple dinner Nathan had made, scrambled eggs and avocado toast, the two of them were watching a comedy show in the living room. Chloe sat cross-legged on the couch, holding a cushion. "You actually laugh at this?" she asked, laughing on her own. "Not as much as you," Nathan said, holding back a smile. "Is your sense of humor on mute?" "It's in observation mode. You're expressive enough for both of us." She picked up a cushion and pretended to throw it at him, but stopped. "I don't trust you enough yet to risk starting a pillow fight." Nathan stood up. "Tomorrow we have a meeting with the development team at 9, and my grandmother might call." "Want me to answer?" "Only if you want to become the family favorite for good." Tempting. Late that night, Chloe was tossing and turning in bed. The mattress was comfortable, but the silence was too much. She was used to the noise of her old neighborhood. Cars passing, neighbors arguing, a dog barking at nothing. Here, Everything was quiet and new. Let's play a little game with those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments. Only the ones who made it this far will get it. Now, back to the story. She got up and walked to the kitchen. Nathan was sitting in the dark, holding a mug of tea. "Can't sleep?" she asked, gently turning on the light. "I usually stay up late." "Me too. But tonight, I think it's the bed being too quiet, and the lamp not making noise, and the fact that I'm living with a man I've known for 4 days. Nathan motioned to the chair beside him. She sat down. "You're very calm about all this," Chloe said. "I've been through trickier situations, and you seem trustworthy." "Wow, that might be the nicest thing you've said since we met." "Don't get used to it." "I never get used to nice things. They usually come with hard tasks." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Chloe asked, "What if your grandmother decides to drop by unannounced?" "She will. It's just a matter of time. Then we need to look convincing. Photos together, a toothbrush of mine in your bathroom, maybe even a pair of shoes by the door." "Already planning the mess?" "Strategic mess. It's part of the plan." "Fine, but don't call me honey in front of her. And you don't call me darling, unless the situation demands it." Chloe smiled. "All right, now go back to bed. We have a routine to pretend tomorrow." In the morning, Chloe woke to the sound of Nathan's alarm coming from the other room. She got dressed quickly, tied her hair up, and walked into the kitchen. He was already there, dressed in a gray suit and polished shoes. "You get ready with terrifying efficiency," she said. "Habit. It took me 10 minutes just to choose between 2 shirts. Then I picked the third one." Nathan handed her a printed list. Things to remember: birthdays, company event dates, relatives' names, and how we met. Chloe read the first line. "We met at a coffee shop. You offered me sugar. Sweet." It's simple and believable. She read a little further. "First kiss, elevator, trip, rescue." Wow, that's almost poetic. Does it work? It works. But I want an appendix with backup romantic lines. Something like, "Since I met you, coffee tastes sweeter." Nathan looked at her. "Don't ever say that. Ever. It's just an example." She grabbed her purse and walked to the door. "Shall we?" Nathan checked the time. "We have 7 minutes." "Great. Just enough time for me to practice my loving gaze in the elevator mirror." "Don't overdo it. You tend to be dramatic." Chloe rode the elevator with him, both quiet for a few floors. "Nathan?" "Yes? This is still completely insane. I know. But for now, it's working." He looked at her for a second longer than usual. "For now it is." And when the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, they walked out side by side, as if they'd done it dozens of times before. Nathan had barely stepped into the office that morning when he'd already received 4 urgent emails, 2 incomplete reports, and a call from his grandmother asking what Chloe's favorite color was. "Why does that matter, Grandma?" "I'm buying throw pillows for the engagement gift you haven't told me about yet. I want them to match her sofa." Nathan sighed and leaned against his desk. "Navy blue. Will that do?" "Perfect. Just don't show up with a cheap engagement ring. I've sent you some options by email." He hung up and looked at the door. At that exact moment, Chloe walked in with her purse over her shoulder and a box of donuts in her hands. "I thought today was a good day to start with some sugar," she said, smiling. "Unless there's a diamond ring inside that box, you're not solving my problems," he replied, taking a donut. "Wow. We're optimistic this morning. What happened?" "My grandmother called. Wants to know your favorite color so she can buy throw pillows. And apparently she's planning our engagement on her own." "Great. At least someone in this relationship is putting in the effort." Chloe sat at the table and pulled a folder with the day's schedule from her bag. "Today you have a meeting with the legal department at 10, then a presentation with the marketing team, and," she turned the page, "a dinner with investors at 7. And yes, it's listed as a social event. They want to meet the couple." Nathan frowned. "Who confirmed us as a couple?" "I did. You were too busy yesterday and we needed to reply, and since we're pretending to be in a relationship, I figured social events were part of the deal." He took a deep breath but didn't argue. "All right, but I want to go over a few ground rules before then. No jokes about my childhood, no mentioning my snoring, and please don't bring up the time I spilled coffee in the elevator. You turned as red as a tomato that day. It was adorable." "Let's not emphasize that." "Okay, I'll be the perfect, charming, quietly in love character." Quiet? Okay, moderately quiet. That afternoon, as they left a meeting with the logistics team, Chloe pressed the elevator button eagerly. I bet we'll get it empty. I like the quiet and the soft music. Makes me feel like I'm in a spy movie. Nathan raised an eyebrow. You make up stories in elevators? Of course. I've been abducted by aliens in one, confessed love to my archenemy in another, and once fought off a killer clown in my mind. That explains a lot about your behavior. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped in alone. Chloe leaned against the wall. If this were a movie, this would be the moment when the tension between the characters builds. They look at each other in silence, the music swells, and then she stopped when she saw Nathan cross his arms and chuckle softly. You really believe that? Of course. Every good story has its elevator moment. It's where everything changes. Nathan was quiet for a few seconds. Then, with a more serious look, he asked, what if we're in that story, and the elevator isn't just a setting, but part of the turning point? Chloe raised an eyebrow, curious. That was kind of poetic coming from you. Just a thought. The elevator stopped on the 12th floor, and a group of employees stepped in, breaking the mood. Chloe whispered, if background music starts now, I'm going to laugh. Nathan didn't respond, but the corner of his mouth curved slightly. After work, Chloe went back to her apartment to get ready for the dinner. She chose an elegant but simple dress and styled her hair in a classic way. Nathan, as always, was already dressed, looking sharp in his dark suit. Nervous? He asked when he saw her walk into the room. A little. I'm still not sure if I'm your secretary, fake girlfriend, or emotional crime partner. For tonight, just act like someone who enjoys teasing me. I'm very good at that. The restaurant was reserved, elegant, with soft lighting and waiters who looked like they walked out of a perfume commercial. Nathan greeted the investors warmly, and Chloe followed the plan perfectly. This is my girlfriend, Chloe, he said, introducing her with ease. She offered a warm smile and a handshake. Nice to meet you. Nathan told me a lot about this dinner. I hope it was something good, one of the investors said with a smile. He said, you're the only ones who make him more nervous than his own grandmother, which is a compliment, believe me. Everyone laughed, including Nathan, who shook his head slightly in mock disapproval. The dinner went on with conversations about business, travel, favorite foods, and even a brief discussion about wine. Chloe moved through all the topics with ease. Her quick thinking and relaxed humor even won over the more serious guests. So Chloe, what do you do when you're not winning over our friend here? One of the guests asked. Chloe pretended to think. Well, I organize chaotic schedules, calm inflated egos, and serve coffee with great skill. In other words, I'm an executive assistant, but with a little extra charm. And how long have you been with Nathan? She glanced at him quickly, then turned back to the group. Long enough to know he hates raisins, prefers dark socks, and pretends he doesn't like romantic movies. But cried at one about dogs. Nathan cleared his throat quietly and reached for his water glass. Chloe is very observant, he said in a neutral tone. It's a natural talent. I have emotional radar and a sharp eye for fake tough guys. The group laughed again, and even though Nathan tried to keep a professional face, he couldn't hide how impressed he was. On the way back to the car, the two walked in silence. Chloe looked at the busy street with a small smile on her lips. They liked me, she said. You did well. Was that a compliment? It was just a fact. She looked at him. You did well too, less grumpy than usual. Almost friendly. I was under pressure. I couldn't blow our cover. Right. And when you defended me from that joke about my music taste, that was an automatic reaction. You've been having a lot of automatic reactions lately. You'll end up getting used to me. Nathan didn't answer. He just looked out the window for a few seconds. Chloe? Yes? Doesn't this bother you? What do you mean? All of this, pretending, being here, having your routine disrupted by me. She thought for a moment before answering. It's strange, but it's the good kind of strange. I feel like, for the first time in a long while, I'm part of something. Even if it's something unlikely and a little crazy. Nathan stayed quiet. There was a sincerity in her words that he wasn't ready to take in. Back at the apartment, Chloe went straight to her room. She took off her shoes, sat on the bed, and let out a deep breath. It had been a good day. Intense, but good. In the living room, Nathan was looking at the paper she had left a few days earlier, the official story list. He picked up a pen and added a line. 8. She can turn a boring dinner into something memorable. Later, Chloe walked into the kitchen for some water and found Nathan making tea. Still up? Yes. Want some? She nodded and sat at the counter. You know what's funny? She said. I feel more at ease here than I have at home in months. Nathan looked at her closely. Why is that? Maybe because here, I feel seen. Even if it's for something silly like fooling a charming grandmother. You think it's silly? Maybe not that much. Maybe I'm starting to like the feeling of belonging. He handed her a cup and sat beside her. Chloe? Thank you for today. She smiled. You're improving. Soon you'll be thanking me with flowers and everything. Let's not go overboard. They drank their tea in silence, the city lights shining through the window. Neither of them said it out loud, but in that moment they both knew the plan was starting to spiral out of control. And maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Life at Nathan's apartment was slowly starting to feel, surprisingly, comfortable. Chloe had adapted quickly to a home filled with large windows, perfectly balanced furniture, and a man who used the same tone of voice to say good morning and critique spreadsheets. She even created an anti-silence playlist with calm instrumental music to play during breakfast, which mildly irritated Nathan, but he never asked her to turn it off. Does music actually improve your mood, or are you just pretending not to hate my picks? She asked one morning, slowly stirring her coffee. I can handle 3 tracks. After that, I feel like I'm living in an elevator. A luxury elevator, please? She smiled. Nathan just raised an eyebrow. After a few days together, the pretending had started to feel automatic. They had inside jokes, stuck to their household rules, and Chloe knew exactly when in the day Nathan needed coffee, even without him saying a word. She always left a cup on his desk at 2:27 p.m. This is spooky, he said on the 3rd day. This is emotional efficiency, dear, she replied, giving him a wink. On Thursday, while Chloe was reviewing her schedule, a message popped up on her phone from a name she hadn't seen in a long time. Ethan Hale. Hey, I heard you're at Parker Corp. I'm in a meeting on the 10th floor. Want to grab lunch today? Would be great to catch up after all this time. She smiled as she read it. Ethan had been her high school classmate, one of the few who didn't tease her for wearing hand-me-down shoes or bringing lunch in a grocery bag. He was kind, funny, and back then, incredibly popular. Since then, they'd exchanged a few occasional messages but never met again. Who's Ethan? Nathan asked, noticing her different smile. An old friend. Schoolmate. He's here at the office and wants to have lunch. Nathan glanced at the clock, then back at Chloe. Lunch? Yes, just 2 old friends catching up. Normal people do that. How long is this lunch? Why? Are you going to time it? Just curious. Relax. I'll be back before you finish your quarterly report. That would be too fast. Then I'll come back with dessert. Ethan was waiting for her in the lobby. He was even taller than she remembered, dressed in a well-fitted suit and wearing his usual easy smile. Chloe, he said, opening his arms. She hugged him back. Ethan, how is it possible that you look better and I just look more late? You look great, and you still have that same energy. It's so good to see you. The 2 of them walked to a restaurant just 2 blocks away. They talked about school, about the years that had passed, and about how he was now running a fast-growing startup in the educational technology sector. And you? He asked. I read you're at Parker Corp. How did that happen? Chloe laughed. Long story. It involves the wrong building, a mistaken interview, and a secretary position offered by a very unconventional CEO. Sounds like the start of a romantic comedy. I hope it stays a comedy. Too much romance can be complicated. Ethan smiled. And this CEO, is he your direct boss? Nathan Parker, that's him. Wow, I've heard of him. Focused, private, efficient. They say he can't stand distractions. And yet, he hired me. Go figure. Maybe he sees in you what others don't. She blushed slightly and changed the subject. Back at the office, Chloe found Nathan standing in front of her desk. You came back on time. Impressive. Did you miss me? I was monitoring punctuality. Does Ethan make you uncomfortable? No. Why would he? Because your eyebrows are more tense than usual. Maybe it's just concentration. Or jealousy? Nathan stepped a little closer. Chloe, this is just a contract. She smiled but didn't answer. By the end of the day, Nathan was still uneasy. He wouldn't admit it under pressure, but something about the way Chloe talked about Ethan bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Meanwhile, Chloe was typing something on her computer with headphones on. Nathan tapped the edge of her desk to get her attention. "We're going out for dinner tonight." "What?" "Dinner. Out. Restaurant. Waiters. Dim lights. Company card." "Is that an order or an invitation?" "It's part of the role. We need to be seen in public every now and then. It's part of the act." She smiled. "Got it. I'll wear my blue dress, the one your grandmother would approve of." The restaurant Nathan chose was elegant but low-key. Soft lighting and instrumental music. Chloe felt like she was in one of those movies where everything slowly starts to change. During dinner, she said, "You've been different since lunch." "Different how?" "Quieter, less sarcastic, almost introspective." "Maybe it's the setting, or maybe I'm digesting emotions." She laughed. "Are you admitting you feel something?" "I'm saying my stomach feels the weight of responsibility." "I'd say you felt something when you saw Ethan." Nathan kept his eyes on her. "And you? What did you feel when you saw him?" Chloe was quiet for a moment. "Nostalgia. He was one of the few people who were kind to me in school. But honestly, he didn't make me laugh like you do." Nathan hadn't expected that answer. And for a moment, he didn't know how to respond. "Did you just compliment me?" "Better remember it. It won't happen every day." Noted. On the way home, while riding the elevator, Chloe leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. "You know you act strange when you're jealous?" "I wasn't jealous." "Of course not. You just answered 3 times more bluntly than usual and suggested a last-minute dinner like you were trying to buy my attention." Nathan looked at her. "You're really good at reading people. Only the ones who try hard to hide how they feel." He took a deep breath. "Chloe, this isn't part of the plan." "What exactly?" "Feelings. Jealousy. Confusion." "I know, but we're human, and humans complicate even the simplest things." The elevator reached their floor. They walked out without saying another word. Later that night, back home, Nathan walked into the kitchen and found Chloe sitting at the counter, eating cereal straight from the box. "Too early for breakfast, too late for dinner," he said. "It's the meal of emotional confusion. It fits the mood." He poured himself a glass of water and leaned against the counter. "About today?" "It's okay," she cut in. "I get it. We're just pretending." "Chloe." She stood up. "I know the plan was simple, but life never is. And look, I'm willing to keep pretending, but don't ask me to ignore that it's starting to feel more real every day." Nathan watched her for a long moment. "I didn't want you to get hurt." "What if it's you who ends up hurt?" She gave a half smile and walked out of the kitchen, leaving Nathan alone, with more questions than answers. In her room, Chloe lay down hugging a pillow. For the first time, she couldn't tell the difference between what was pretend and what was starting to feel real. And on the other side of the wall, Nathan couldn't sleep either. They were pretending. But deep down, they both knew. This was no longer just an agreement. It was becoming something neither of them had planned for. It was a Friday night, and the Parker Corp building was almost completely dark. Most departments had wrapped up for the day. The elevators made less noise, and silence filled the hallways. Except for one room where the light was still on. Nathan was at his desk, tie loosened, going over a detailed report on expansion investments. It was already past 8, but the pile of documents kept growing instead of shrinking. He took another sip of cold coffee and rubbed his face. Chloe appeared at the door with a glass of juice and a chocolate bar in her hand. "Nighttime intervention," she said, handing him the juice. "No one's productive with bags under their eyes that big." Nathan took it without protest. "You're still here? Someone has to make sure you eat something that's not just caffeine. Besides, I'm reviewing the contracts for Monday's event. And honestly, it's easier to work at night when no one's asking me to resend the same email for the 4th time. You don't have to stay." "I know, but it's better than overthinking. Sometimes a quiet mind is louder than a crowded room." Nathan looked at her more closely. "You okay?" Chloe hesitated, then sat down in the chair across from his desk. "Remember Ethan? My friend from school? How could I forget? He messaged me today, said he wanted to see me again. But I started wondering if that would be the right thing. Not because he's not a good guy. He is. But I just couldn't get excited about it." and I think I know why. Nathan didn't say anything, he just listened. This thing between us, this crazy agreement, it's affecting me more than it should. I can't just ignore how I feel when I'm around you. The room fell silent for a moment. Nathan put down his pen and leaned forward, arms resting on the desk, looking straight at Chloe. Chloe? I know what you're going to say, that it's just a deal, that this is all an act, that we have rules. She gave a small, sad smile. But real life doesn't follow a script, and even when everything's fake, sometimes, the feelings are real. Nathan took a deep breath. I never wanted to drag you into anything that might hurt you. That was never my intention. I know. You're a good man, Nathan. Behind that steel posture, there's someone who cares. Someone who writes beautiful sentences in lists no one ever sees. Nathan looked surprised. You saw them? No, but I felt them, and that's enough. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. I've never been good at this. Feelings, connections, I prefer control. Spreadsheets, logic. Chloe slowly stepped closer. But not everything needs to be controlled, some things just need to be felt. Nathan turned toward her. His face was serious, but his eyes, there was something different in them. A mix of doubt, longing, and an old fear of letting go. It's dangerous. Maybe, but what isn't? Without another word, Nathan stepped forward. Chloe didn't move away. He raised his hand hesitantly and gently touched her face, and then, in a quiet moment, he kissed her. It wasn't a planned kiss, or a controlled one. It was real, simple, true, and for a moment everything about contracts, pretending, and expectations disappeared. When they pulled apart, Chloe kept her eyes closed for a second. Was that in the script? Nathan gave a slight smile. I think we just went off script. She opened her eyes, trying to manage the confusion inside her. And now? Now, he said, returning to his calm tone. We face the consequences, together. Chloe nodded slowly. Okay. But tomorrow I promise not to hum in the hallway. That might just make things more confusing. Nathan laughed. You're already part of my routine, even if it complicates everything. They went back to their tasks, but something had shifted. There was a new feeling in the air, a kind of unexpected peace, as if, even in the middle of the chaos they'd created, they had found a small space of truth. Monday morning came quietly at Nathan's apartment. The smell of coffee hadn't filled the kitchen yet, and the sound of the radio, which Chloe always kept low, wasn't playing. Nathan sat at the table, reading the newspaper with a fixed gaze, but nothing was sinking in. He turned the page, but his mind was still stuck on Friday night. The kiss. That kiss. It hadn't been planned. And maybe that's exactly why it shook him so much. Across the apartment, Chloe was looking at her reflection in the mirror as she tied her hair into a quick bun. She was nervous, more than she wanted to admit. Since that moment in the office, Nathan had kept his distance. Not cold, just different. Over the weekend, he avoided any mention of what had happened. No comments, no conversations. Everything seemed carefully ignored. She walked quietly into the kitchen and found Nathan already dressed to leave. He was standing still, holding a cup, staring out the window. Good morning, Chloe said with a soft smile. Good morning. The reply came quickly, but without looking at her, without the usual tone, without that light teasing that had become natural between them. She slowly opened the fridge, pretending to look for something, then grabbed an apple. Did you sleep well? More or less. Silence. She took a bite of the apple, trying to think of a way to break the tension. About Friday? Nathan turned around immediately. Chloe, I think it's better if we don't talk about that. She paused. Not talk about it? It was a moment, a distraction. It's not part of our arrangement. Chloe set the apple down on the counter. And since when does life follow arrangements? We both know something's happening. Ignoring it will only make things worse. Nathan crossed his arms. I need this to stay simple. Simple? She gave a humorless laugh. You brought me into your apartment, asked me to pretend to be your girlfriend, involved me with your grandmother, your coworkers, your life. And now you want everything to stay. Simple? I didn't want this. I didn't expect to feel anything. Neither did I. But feeling something isn't a mistake, Nathan. He was silent for a few seconds, then spoke more softly. I feel like I'm starting to lose control, and that's dangerous. Chloe stepped closer, her eyes steady. Maybe that's the problem. You're so used to controlling everything, you forgot what it's like to just live. Nathan took a deep breath. I think this has gone too far. The words landed heavy between them. What are you saying? That maybe we should stop, the act, the agreement, all of it. Chloe felt a tightness in her chest. So you want me to leave? I think it's what's best for both of us. She nodded, trying to keep her dignity. Of course, it's fine, I understand. Nathan looked at her for a moment, as if waiting for something. But Chloe simply turned and walked out of the room. 2 hours later, Chloe had packed her things. The purple suitcase was back in the living room, along with her pillow and the box of cookies. She walked through the apartment calmly, though everything inside her ached. On the kitchen table, she left an envelope with what she called an emotional receipt. Inside, a simple note. It was a good lie, so good that for a moment, I believed it. Take care of your grandmother, and of yourself too. Nathan found the note later that night. He read it once, twice, 3 times, then placed it in the drawer next to the list Chloe had written at the beginning of it all. The next few days passed slowly. Chloe returned to her small apartment, back to her modest routine, far from the bright halls of Parker Corp. She kept working, now remotely. Nathan had kept her on, but with distance. Formal emails, cold messages, and she also avoided any attempt to get closer. You seem quiet, her friend Megan said during lunch on Saturday. I'm just trying to clear my head. That has a name, Chloe. It's called disappointment. It wasn't disappointment. It was an illusion. The problem is, it felt so real. Megan held her hand. Maybe it was real, but sometimes people just don't know how to handle what they feel. Chloe gave a sad smile. And sometimes they just prefer not to feel at all. At Parker Corp, Nathan kept up his usual routine. But he was different. Quieter, more serious than usual, which was saying something. Amanda noticed first, then the others. He turned down lunch invitations, ended meetings early, and avoided any mention of Chloe. But inside his drawer, her notes remained, untouched. On Friday, Dolores called. So, how are things with Chloe? Nathan hesitated. It's over. Silence on the other end. You're saying that with the same cold tone you used to talk about quarterly numbers, Nathan? It was for the best? For who? Nathan didn't know what to say. You know what I miss, Nathan? What? When you were a little boy and you cried when a toy broke, because you really cried. No shame. Now, you break everything inside yourself and just go quiet. Nathan swallowed hard. I have to go, Grandma. Of course, but think about what you're losing, and if not for yourself, think of her. She looked alive when she was with you, and you looked human when you were with her. Let's play a game for those who read only the comments. Type Coca-Cola in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now, let's get back to the story. That night, Nathan sat alone in his apartment. Same couch, same lighting, same things in place. But something was missing. A sound, a smile. A voice that used to fill the silence with absurd comments and simple truths. He looked at his phone several times, typed messages, deleted them, rewrote, gave up. For the first time, the man who controlled everything didn't know how to fix what had been broken. And for the first time, Chloe wondered if what they had built, even if it started as a lie, wasn't, deep down, the truest thing she had ever felt. Chloe's apartment was small, but that Monday morning, it seemed a bit brighter. Maybe it was the sunlight coming through the window, or maybe the fresh coffee she had made herself. Or maybe, for the first time in days, she felt like she was standing on her own 2 feet again. She was finishing up reviewing her resume when she got a message from Ethan. The position in the communications department just opened up. They're looking for someone creative and proactive. Do you have time to talk today? Chloe smiled. Creative and proactive? I've got plenty of that, she murmured to herself. Ever since she had left Nathan's apartment, she'd been trying not to fall into the emptiness that was left behind. Yes, it still hurt. Yes, there were still nights when she reopened the note she had left for him, wondering if he'd even read it. But now, she knew she couldn't stop there. She put on her best light blue blouse, tied her hair back with a firm elastic, and popped in her headphones to boost her mood on the way. This time, it was for her. At Ethan's office, a fast-growing startup, the environment was light, modern, and completely different from the seriousness of Parker Corp. There were colorful paintings, plants everywhere, and even a shelf full of books on creativity and innovation. Ethan greeted her with a warm hug. You came. I'm glad. I needed a change of atmosphere, and the energy here is different. That's because we work with purpose. We want people who think outside the box. And you, Chloe, were never inside it. She laughed, surprised by the compliment. Is that a good thing? It's essential. They talked for almost an hour. Ethan explained the projects in progress, the challenges of the field, and especially how she could contribute fresh ideas, particularly in communications and social campaigns. I'm offering you a trial, a real chance, no pretending. Do you accept? Chloe extended her hand, confident. I accept. Over the next few weeks, Chloe threw herself into the new job. She created content, organized campaigns, led meetings. Her energy was contagious. For the first time, she was truly heard. Her ideas were taken seriously. One day, after a presentation that was praised by everyone, she was walking down the sidewalk with an ice cream in her hand when she stopped in front of a store window. Inside, a TV was showing coverage of a charity event hosted by Parker Corp. Nathan appeared next to a group of executives, serious as always, but empty. Chloe stood there for a moment, then took a bite of her ice cream and kept walking. That's it, life goes on. Nathan, meanwhile, wasn't handling Chloe's absence well. The apartment felt bigger than it really was. The couch felt harder and the silence heavier. At work, he kept up his efficiency, but something had changed. Amanda was the first to notice. Do you need me to reorganize your schedule, Mr. Parker? She asked one morning. Is it already organized? It is. Then there's no need to change anything. But you've been staring at the same meeting for 15 minutes, and it was yesterday. Nathan closed the tablet. I'm just distracted. Since when do you get distracted? He didn't answer. That afternoon, he walked past the desk that used to be Chloe's. It was empty. No sticky notes. No coffee mug. No laughter. He felt something tighten in his chest. It was like a part of his routine had been ripped away without warning. One night, Dolores called again. Looks like there's no hope for you. You called just to remind me of that? I called because my friend's daughter saw Chloe at a tech company event and was amazed, said she was glowing. And guess what I thought? What? That you're a fool. You let a woman with her own light slip away, and now she's lighting up someplace else. Congratulations. Nathan held the phone in silence. You called just to make me uncomfortable? I called to remind you that sometimes to get back what really matters, you have to do what you've never done. Lower your guard. I did what I thought was right, then start doing what you feel. She hung up without saying goodbye. At the end of that week, Chloe got an unexpected invitation, a special campaign project with a spot on a public panel. It would be the first time she'd speak to an audience as an official representative of a team. She accepted without hesitation. On the day of the event, she wore a light blazer, black pants, and a simple necklace that matched the quiet sparkle in her eyes. Ethan walked beside her, proud. Nervous? He asked, a little, but also excited. I'm doing something important for myself. And you look beautiful. She thanked him with a gentle smile. Thank you, Ethan. Across the room, Nathan Parker watched from a distance. Sitting in the back row, he had arrived unannounced. He'd heard about the panel from a colleague, and something had pushed him to come. He wanted to see it with his own eyes, and there she was, radiant, confident, independent. As she spoke about empathetic communication and the impact of truly listening to people, Nathan felt a mix of pride and regret. After the event, he kept his distance. He stayed through the end of her talk and left before she saw him. But that night, he opened the drawer of his desk and reread every note, every message from Chloe, as if he were looking for the strength to take the next step. The next morning, Chloe arrived at her new office and found an unmarked envelope on her desk. Inside was just one note, written in the handwriting she knew so well. Some people only realize the value of light after spending too long in the dark. Thank you for bringing light into my life. I'm learning to light my own way now. But if one day you'd like to share that light, I'll be here. She read it, then read it again, sitting in her chair. And then, for the first time since the agreement ended, she smiled from the heart. It was just the beginning, but she knew she was back, and stronger than ever. Nathan received Dolores's message a little after 8 in the morning. I'm not feeling well. Can you come? It's serious. Without hesitation, he canceled his first meeting and drove to his grandmother's house. On the way, he tried to calm the knot in his stomach that kept tightening. Dolores rarely said something was serious, and when she did, it almost never had to do with her health. When he arrived, he parked in front of the house, heart racing. He opened the door with the copy of the key she had given him years ago. "Grandma?" "In the living room, dear." Nathan walked into the living room and found Dolores sitting calmly in her armchair, wrapped in a floral blanket, holding a steaming cup of tea. Are you okay?" "I'm alive, which is something at my age, but I've been feeling strange, a sense of something, maybe a hunch." Nathan frowned. "You said in your message it was serious. And it is. Loneliness is serious too. But don't worry, my grandson. Tea helps." Nathan let out a sigh and rolled his eyes slightly. "Grandma?" Before he could say more, the doorbell rang. He turned, surprised. "Did you call someone?" "Would you get that for me, dear?" When Nathan opened the door, there was Chloe. She held a bag and looked both confused and cautious. "Chloe?" "Hi, Nathan. I got a message from your grandmother. She said she needed me. I thought it was something serious." Nathan turned slowly to Dolores. "You sent a message to both of us?" Dolores smiled like she had just won a game of chess. "I'm so glad you both came. I really did need some help." "With what exactly?" "There's a problem in my room. Too strange to explain, but could you two take a look?" Nathan hesitated. Chloe did too. "Is it urgent?" she asked. "Absolutely. I can't sleep with the idea that something might be lurking." Chloe gave Nathan a skeptical look, and he shrugged. "Let's get this over with." Dolores's bedroom was a spacious, tidy room with a soft lavender scent. Nothing seemed out of place. "So what's strange in here?" Nathan asked, arms crossed. "Over there in the corner, near the wardrobe. I think I heard a noise last night." Chloe walked toward the wall, glancing around. "Nothing here." "Everything looks fine, Grandma," Nathan added. "Are you sure? Look again. Near the dresser, too." As they both turned to look at the other side of the room, they heard a loud click. The door slammed shut. "Grandma?" Nathan called. From outside, Dolores's voice came through clearly. "Oh dear, the lock jammed." Nathan ran to the door and turned the handle. Nothing. "Grandma, did you lock us in here?" "No, the lock's been touchy. Must have stuck again. But don't worry, the locksmith will be here tomorrow morning. Just sleep there for the night. The mattress is comfortable." "Dolores," Chloe said, stunned. "Good night, children," the old woman said, far too cheerful for someone who had urgently asked for help. Nathan leaned his forehead against the door for a second. "We've been tricked." "With style," Chloe added. The room was way too quiet. Chloe sat on the edge of the bed and looked around. "Well, at least we have pillows. And only one bed. You can sleep on the floor. Of course, my punishment for trusting my grandmother. Or mine, for bringing cookies, thinking this was a recovery visit." Nathan grabbed a pillow and a blanket and laid down on the carpet beside the bed. "This floor feels like it has invisible thorns. Just imagine if you'd brought your orthopedic mattress. By now, you'd be demanding emotional compensation. Go ahead and laugh, but my back is a national treasure." Chloe lay down on the bed, trying to relax. "Do you think she planned all this?" "No doubt about it." "Why?" "Because she saw what we were trying to hide, and she got tired of waiting for us to figure it out ourselves. So she thought locking us in a room would solve everything? Maybe she knew what was missing was silence and being close." Chloe turned to face the wall. "I missed you." Nathan lifted his head from the pillow, surprised. "Even after everything?" "Even then. Silence. I missed you too, every day. But I was scared of feeling, of losing control, of getting hurt. I was scared too, but being apart was even worse." Nathan stayed quiet for another moment. "Chloe, you don't have to say it all now, just tell me if you still want to try." "More than anything." Chloe smiled in the dark. "Then let's try. But this time, with less running and more talking. And no contracts." "Definitely." In the middle of the night, the room was completely silent. Nathan tossed and turned on the floor, mumbling quietly. "Chloe? The carpet won. Can I share the bed?" "As long as you stay on your side. No crossing the pillow border." "I promise." He got up, gently lay down on the edge of the bed, and pulled a corner of the blanket over him. Minutes later, they were breathing in sync. The distance between them was respected, until it wasn't anymore. During the night, Nathan shifted slightly toward the center. Chloe, fast asleep, moved too. As the sun started to peek through the window, They lay side by side, shoulder to shoulder, as if nothing had ever come between them. The soft morning light filled the room when Dolores knocked on the door. "Good morning. Are you two still alive in there?" Nathan woke up first. Chloe was still sleeping, her face peaceful. "Still alive, Grandma," he answered softly. "The lock seems to be working better now. A miracle, isn't it?" "A miracle or a setup?" "A little of both." Outside, Dolores smiled. "You know, sometimes love just needs a little push, or a well-placed lock." Chloe slowly opened her eyes, and she said, "Good morning, love." Nathan looked at her, took her hand, and kissed the tips of her fingers. "Good morning." Chloe smiled, still half asleep. Outside the door, Dolores smiled again and said, "Nothing like a good plan. Now I can enjoy my coffee in peace." 3 weeks had passed since the night Dolores had accidentally locked Nathan and Chloe in the room. Since then, everything between them had taken on a lighter, more genuine rhythm. No masks, no contract. Just two hearts learning to move at the same pace, stumbling now and then, but always laughing when it happened. Nathan was no longer the man who had to control even the way books were arranged on a shelf. And Chloe no longer needed to prove to herself that she was worthy of love. The two of them had learned, through experience, that the most genuine feelings don't always follow logic, but they always make sense. That Saturday morning, the sun shone over Manhattan, and a light breeze played with the curtains in Nathan's apartment, which now was Chloe's too. Or, as she liked to call it, our neutral zone with a tendency toward messiness. Nathan was in the kitchen, slicing fruit with near-surgical precision when Chloe walked in, her hair up in a loose bun and wearing one of his t-shirts, as usual. "I like watching you with knives. It adds a dangerous charm to your image," she said, grabbing a strawberry from the bowl. "And I like seeing you in my t-shirts, though I may never find half of them again. They're keepsakes now. Sentimental items, extremely high emotional value." Nathan laughed, then looked at her for a moment in silence. "Have you ever noticed the apartment feels bigger when you're here?" Was that supposed to be a compliment? It was a poetic observation. "I'll take it, but only because I'm hungry." After breakfast, Nathan disappeared for a few minutes. Chloe found it odd, but didn't worry. She was finishing up some emails for a volunteer project when he called her from the balcony. "Chloe?" She approached with a bit of suspicion. "What is it?" When she stepped onto the balcony, she saw a small table covered with a white cloth. In the center, a blue box with a gold ribbon. All around it, photos of the two of them. In the elevator, at the dinner with the investors, at Dolores's house, even from the first time she walked into the company, wearing a badge that wasn't hers. What is this? It's a conversation, and maybe a plan. Nathan pulled out the chair for her, then sat beside her. "When you walked into my office for the first time, I thought it was just a mistake, and it was. But it was the most wonderful mistake that ever happened to me. You shook up my routine, challenged me, made me laugh, and just when I thought I could keep everything under control, you showed me that loving someone means willingly letting go of control." Chloe's eyes were already full of tears. "I never imagined that walking into the wrong building would lead me to the right place. I just wanted a job, but I found someone who saw more in me than a wrinkled resume." Nathan took out the little box and got down on one knee. "Chloe Martins, will you be my wife, my partner, my daily dose of chaos, and the reason I'll laugh forever?" She covered her mouth with her hand. "That was the most beautiful, most unexpected, and most you proposal I could imagine. So, of course I will, you wonderfully grumpy man." Nathan slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a tight hug. Then he kissed her like all the kisses in the world had been saved for that one moment. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too. And now, officially, you're stuck with me. No exceptions." The wedding was set for 2 months later. Chloe wanted something small, intimate, but full of meaning. Nathan only had one request, that it be outdoors, and that Dolores be sitting in the front row. And she was, wearing a pink hat, dark sunglasses, and fanning herself like royalty. "I can't remember the last time I went to a wedding this lovely," she whispered to Amanda, who was smiling beside her. "Maybe it's because this one feels more real than any other. Or because I planned the whole thing from the start," Dolores replied, her eyes sparkling. The ceremony took place in a garden on a property just outside the city. surrounded by white flowers, string lights hanging from trees, and smiles everywhere. Chloe walked down the aisle arm in arm with her mother, wearing a soft, flowing dress with delicate details on the shoulders. Nathan stood at the altar, his eyes locked on hers as if nothing else existed. As she approached, he took her hand and said, "You look exactly how I imagined, ever since the day you told me you could dance in a long dress." She laughed, holding back tears. "And you look almost friendly. I'm a little suspicious." During their vows, Chloe took a deep breath and began. "I've never been the type to make perfect plans. My life has always been full of surprises, improvisation, and missteps. But out of all the mistakes I've made, the best one was walking into the wrong building. Because that's where I found you. And now, more than loving you, I admire who you are. I want to be the person who reminds you every day that you can smile more, complain less, and live with lightness." Nathan smiled, his eyes shining. "And I've never been one to show emotions. I spent my life trying to stay in control. But you taught me that love is the complete opposite. It's free, light, messy. It's laughing in the middle of an argument. It's hidden chocolate in a drawer. It's loud music in the morning. It's you. And I want to spend every day learning how to be the man you already believe I can be." The guests stood and applauded. Dolores wiped her tears with a linen napkin. After the "I do" and the official kiss, Chloe whispered in Nathan's ear, "Now it's official. You're mine forever. And you're my favorite kind of chaos." The reception was filled with unforgettable moments. Chloe danced with Nathan to a soft song, tripping twice, which only made it more beautiful. Amanda gave a heartfelt speech about second chances. Ethan showed up as a surprise, bringing a symbolic gift, a little notebook with the words, "Great stories start with small detours." As night fell and the party lights grew brighter, Chloe and Nathan walked into the garden, just the two of them for a few quiet minutes. They sat on a bench, watching the guests from a distance. "Are you happy?" he asked. "More than I ever thought I'd be." "And you?" "You make me happy. It's that simple." They kissed under the garden lights, with the world celebrating around them. But in their hearts, there was silence, peace, and the certainty that they were exactly where they were meant to be. What did you think of Chloe and Nathan's story? Let us know in the comments. From 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss one of our stories, and go ahead and check out another emotional story right here on the screen.